All right, everybody, it's going to be going at twice the speed. Remember to like and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. I'm happy to be back. So I'm going to be doing a drywall repair behind somebody else's work. I was not the person who originally mudded this wall. They did a horrible job, and the mud is just very uneven, and I need to sand, and then remud. So here I taped up the 240 outlet that is for their Tesla vehicle, and I'm just thoroughly sanding everything down. As you can see, every once in a while I touch it with my hands barehandedly. I really just want to remove any ridges between the wall and where the drywall mud is. I'm going to be doing this for both sides here and just to the left there. Now I'm going to be doing touch-up paint. I did inform this customer that this touch-up paint would flash. I could tell that the old paint was not the original color anymore. It's got scuffs. It's got time aging. Just over time, paint slightly changes in color. It's the exact same can that was originally used, but it's still going to flash at the end of the day. So I'm just going to do a very thorough job of sanding all the ridges out, getting it down as flat as I can, and even below the level of the sea of the wall itself if possible, because I'm going to be remudding and basically doing the mud job myself because this is just horrible. So again, you can see everywhere that I'm going, I'm just kind of touching it, giving it a little bit more, touching it again, depending on how much I need to remove. I'm just kind of feeling it up. Now this is drywall mud. This is very crumbly, and it doesn't like to stick to the drywall knife, so you'll see that I put it on there and then kind of really quickly get it onto the wall and spread it. This stuff doesn't spread on super smooth, but that's the idea. I want it to be thick, and I want it to take up space because it's just so uneven on the wall. Some places are pits, some places were ridges before I sanded. And just keep applying it. I'm not using a big knife. This is, I think that's a 5-inch knife that I'm using there. And just getting it wherever, I feel that it needs to be leveled out and evened out. I also typically go along the ridges. See, I'm feeling for ridges because I don't want to sand too much there. I can start sanding to the point where I get to the actual paper for the drywall itself. And you just kind of want to taper it off. A lot of folks don't realize this. There isn't a straight drywall wall anywhere. Not perfectly straight. They all kind of swerve in and out a little bit. The wood that is holding the drywall up will expand and contract with the changing of temperatures. So it's not going to be perfectly straight. Here I'm just getting what you see. It literally falls right off the knife. That's just a small little pit that I saw there. I just went ahead and hit it. There's another little pit right there, the actual hole. Again, this drywall mud with the gold top is really good for this. It's a little bit more difficult to use. So if you're not an expert, you might find this difficult to use. But I find that when you're trying to do a same-day mudding, sanding, and painting, this stuff dries pretty quickly. If you pause the video at any point, like right now, you can see how bad the drywall is. It's cracking. They didn't use drywall tape. So just sand away until it's at the same level as the wall or below it. I'm going to be remudding everything, so I'm not too worried. Just sand and sand and sand away. A lot of folks would be like, why didn't I use an orbital sander or something like that? I'll typically use something like that more for woodwork. With drywall, a lot of times the orbital sander can bite the wall, and it can be a hazard. It'll bite the wall and jump, and if you don't have a good grip on it, I've actually severed one nerve in my left hand because I was using an orbital sander on drywall when I first started doing drywall. You can also bite into the wall and have to remud and repaint. So this is such a small spot, I decided just to sand it by hand. Just sand away. This is just going to be another few minutes. Imagine now this is double the speed. How much sanding this actually is. I threw down carpet shield on the floor. It's just a really wide piece of tape that you can stick to the floor. And I like using that for floor protection because it doesn't move when you walk on it. I've seen folks use just regular tarps or plastic, and you get caught on it, and your whole body pulls it, and now you got paint all over the floor. Spending a little extra money on Carpet Shield is absolutely worth it. I will see about putting the links to the materials that I'm using in the description. My DJI is mounted to my head, so there'll be moments where I'm way too close to the wall. Please forgive me on those, but I wanted to show the whole process. You saw I took the small knife and literally smeared it on the wall because that stuff doesn't like to stay on the big knife. Those were pits that were just way too deep, and I decided to put it on now because I needed to go back inside and go do some painting, come back down and sand and re-mud. So this is just a rough mudding. My rough mudding isn't going to look quite as bad as the last person's rough mudding. Try to make your job easy so you can do less sanding later. Notice how I'm spreading it out a lot. I'm not trying to leave a bunch of ridges and pits. And this is just a lot of mud. Basically remudding the whole thing. Now, if this was a fresh mud, it was my first time mudding this location, I would not use this mud. I would use just normal drywall mud. It's a lot more wet, takes longer to dry, but it's easier to spread. Notice I didn't clean the area before I put more mud on there because drywall dust is basically just not mixed drywall. You can theoretically remix it. Now you do want to clean the area before you start painting, otherwise the paint won't stick. And oftentimes when you put like a piece of tape on that area and it peels right off, it's because they didn't really clean the wall before they painted. Just spread it out. Take your time. This will save you a lot more work later. It actually took me a lot longer to do this first half than it did for me to come back, and this is me coming back later. Again, reapplying some more mud. I discarded a little bit of the mud on the top. See, it's right off. Doesn't even stick. It needed these two muddings because it was just, the pits were so deep that by the time I came back, they had shrunk. You're more than welcome to just skip ahead this part if you understand. This is just me mudding, adding a lot more mud to this area so that it's at least level with the area on top and below it. If I put a little bit extra more than needed, I can sand that away. But better more than less, because you don't want a hole in the wall, essentially. Alright, keep adding mud, keep adding mud. Now you can't really touch it while it's wet drywall mud, but or spackling. There's just all kinds of names. I've gotten used to using the word drywall mud, so that's what I use. I probably should have went and got my 12-inch knife. The thing I have in my hand is called the knife. I should have probably went and did that. It would have made this easier, but I just didn't get it. Decided to just go this route. This is all being done by eye. I already sanded and touched everything. I have an idea of what I want to accomplish. And by eye, I can just see where it's like dipped or where it's sticking above. And I'm just about done with the mudding here. Oh, drop the camera. Now here the mud is still a little bit wet. Not a lot. This is that dry mud again. I'm just taking off the stuff on the surface, and then I'm probably going to be coming back. Going again, touching everything, making sure the ridges are gone. Now this is a hot, not summer quite, but it's like 86 degrees outside. The garage door is open. It dries pretty quickly. I must have left it there for about an hour and came back. And you can't really see what I'm doing. I'm just sanding. Just a whole lot of sanding. I'm still fairly new to this, guys, with this DJI on the helmet. I gotta get better at adjusting it so you can see everything that I'm doing. So please bear with me. I will be putting more drywall repair videos up in the future, so keep an eye out for those. A few spots that need just a little bit more mud. And that's why I was sanding there. This is going to be my final mudding, and then it's off to paint. Rub the wall down a little bit with a rag. Just a little bit more mud. This is the reason I actually don't put the original audio in a lot of my videos. Often I'm working on this at a client's house. I'll have words with them. So I decided to not put the original audio in and just do a voiceover afterwards. When I'm at home doing work on my own, I'll be putting on my own audio without having to do voiceovers in the future. So this is actually me having come back. I had walked away and came back about an hour later, double checked everything, did a very light sanding, and I don't need a whole lot of paint, as you just see there. I mean, this part is pretty straightforward. I'm using a fine sponge roller because I made this drywall very fine, and I'm rolling the paint in. I like to go a few inches past the point typically, and sometimes I'll even try to taper the paint in so that it's not so obvious, the paint flashing. For those of you guys that don't really understand what I mean by paint flashing, um, if you paint over old paint with new paint, even if it's the same paint, with certain lighting, you'll actually see the difference in the two colors. If you start looking at walls in people's homes, you'll actually notice it. And that is a drywall repair, guys. Remember, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave some comments, and if you have any questions, go right ahead. I will be more than happy to answer them. All right, everyone. See you on the next one.